The next topic of this same chapter of organic evolution is the biggest question, that how life originated on the earth. So I'll write origin of life on earth. For accepting or for justifying the origin of life, there were very controversial theories which were put forwarded by that time scientists. I'll discuss briefly these theories of evolution. Some of them, they are no longer in acceptable state. For example, the number one theory is theory of spatial creation. The theory of spatial creation says that the life was created by superficial or superpower, that is by God. There is nothing scientific about this theory. There is no evidence even, so the theory is no more acceptable nowadays. Such type of theories were prevalent when there was no science. Another theory, that is theory of spontaneous generation. The theory of spontaneous generation means life comes all of a sudden without any scientific clue present behind it. This theory was put forwarded by Thales and Aristotle, who was a great philosopher as well as scientist of his time. According to them, life and the other materials required for life, they came automatically from time to time. There was no explanation behind this concept. The third concept, or the theory of biogenesis, was put forwarded by the greatest scientist of his time, Louis Pasteur. Theory of biogenesis. He was a great scientist of his time. Louis Pasteur proposed and proved that the biogenesis concept of Huxley and Harvey, that the new organism arises from the pre-existing one. The theory of biogenesis was not only from the Louis Pasteur side, there were other scientists involved in this theory. They were Reddy and Spallanzani. Biogenesis theory says that the pre-existing animal gave rise to the new animal. This theory was having some scientific ground behind it, and it was, better accepted. But as the science evolved, there were more theories to justify the origin of life, and this is considered as a modern theories. They are together considered as the modern theories of evolution. One of the greatest examples of organic evolution came from the experiment conducted by Operin and Haldane. Initially, it was considered that the modern theory of evolution is one of the best accepted theory, was put forward by Operin and Haldane. This theory was published in the book called The Origin of Life. According to this theory, Earth was found about 4,600 million years ago, and the atoms were present at that time were of nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen in some amount, argon, carbon, etc. They were from the primitive environment, or we can say they were predominantly present in the primitive environment. As the earth began to cool down, means the temperature went down over a period of time, these matters begins to condense. Because initially the temperature of earth was very high, slowly and gradually the temperature came down. As a result of coming down of temperature, these matter they condensed, and they but it was still very hot, means it was not possible to form crucial elements which were supposed to be prevalent at that time. But the large quantities of hydrogen, nitrogen, H2O vapor, as well as methane gas and ammonia also to some extent were present, but unfortunately there was no oxygen. In the absence of oxygen, initially the life originated by hydrogen, nitrogen, water vapor, methane and ammonia. Means this water vapor, oxygen, it was a source of oxygen for the formation of life. Some amount of nitrites, carbides and cyanides were formed initially by these initial gases and elements. The experiment which was very important to prove the theory of Oparin and Haldane was conducted by Stanley Miller and H.C. Urey. This experiment of Miller and Urey, it really revolutionized the theory of evolution. These two scientists built a special kind of apparatus in which they kept a flask in which boiling water was kept. It was run for approximately 7 days. This flask was connected to another chamber. In this chamber, the mixture of ammonia, methane, water vapor along with hydrogen was present. To create a primitive type of atmosphere, means the creating of light, electrical spark was made, because atmospheric lightning was the major source of energy at that time. Atmospheric lightning was a major source of energy. So to give that, the electric spark was created, and this experiment was run for 7 days. What Miller and Urey observed after 7 days, that on condensation there was a mixture of 3 critical amino acids which were isolated in this mixture. These were glycine, aspartic acid and alanine. Glycine, aspartic acid and alanine, they are the simplest form of amino acids. It proves that initially amino acid forms, when they join in a chain, they form enzymes which were critical in catalyzing biochemical reactions. Later on they formed structural proteins, means amino acid forms not only enzymatic proteins but also structural proteins which are considered as the building blocks of living organisms. So after the experiment conducted by Miller and Urey, it was proved that abiogenesis first and biogenesis second. Let us consider that the scientific basis of evolution was based on the theory of uh, experiment theory derived out of the experiment conducted by Miller and Urey. But actually, the organic evolution began later. So far, what we have studied is a part of inorganic evolution. When we study the process of evolution, we cannot forget the contribution made by the father of evolution, that is Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was basically from UK. He took one ship called Beagle and went around for searching throughout the coastal areas of the world. When he reached to Galapagos Island, he saw a live laboratory of evolution in terms of finches. These are small beautiful birds which I have already quoted in the previous lecture. When he saw finches, he found that due to different habitat or due to different environmental condition, they have different morphological features such as beaks, color, etc. Based on his observations during the entire course of journey, with the help of this small beautiful ship called Beagle, he concluded in his concept in the form of laws of evolution. Laws of evolution, which is considered as a postulates of Darwinism. The first postulate, according to him, if any species wants to live or survive on the earth, then it should be able to reproduce at a faster rate as compared to its competitive species. Means fast rate of reproduction is a must for any species to survive on the earth. The second postulate put forwarded was existence of variations. Existence of variation. If you remember my last lecture, I have explained this topic by the example quoted in the form of beetles, that how green, blue and red beetles formed out of mutation. So variations are very necessary for evolution. Variation means forming of one, two or three or more form from the single organism. Means this A organism gave rise to A1, A2, A3 or A4 forms over a period of time. Different forms of the same organism. The third postulate, according to Darwin, that is natural selection. Nature selects the best. Nature selects the best suitable organism. This is a rule of nature in order to find the best variant in the environment. The fourth concept of Darwinism is the inheritance of these variations. Means these suitable organisms having some type of genetic material present in them which was transferred from one generation to the next generation, that is considered as the inheritance of these variations. Variations are caused due to the change in the environmental condition. The next point or next postulate of Darwinism says